Skip, let me start with you. NFL.com spoke to executives around the league, and they ranked Sam Darnold as a top quarterback. Should he be?
So, Mr. Liner, I have heard you talk about your fellow USC quarterback, and I've heard you rave about him, and I understand that because he is a great young man.
Yep.
You have gotten to know him,
Yep.
I would say, pretty good
Yeah.
amount,
Yeah.
spent a good amount of time around him. And yet, I have, as I step back from his resume, concerns that are turning into alarm bells. His interceptions went from 9 2 years ago to 13 last year. His sacks went from 6 to 29. He led college football last year with 8 fumbles lost, and he had 5 fumbles lost the year before. Not good signs because often that degree of turnovers will translate into pro football turnovers.
Yep.
Percentage of completion dropped from 67% to 63% last year. Not terrible, but just slightly alarming. So he had the great Rose Bowl 2 years ago. And then I thought he was really great in the Texas game, which I watched from start to finish. You were there that night at the Coliseum. It was the 3rd game of the year, and he brought them from behind with a couple of sensational throws, double overtime win. But Texas finished 7-6, so I don't know if we can read too much into it. I was sold on Sam at that point until the turnover machine started happening. So I ask you, is it possible that the great guy, the great kid, is too great a kid where he tries too hard? He's forcing things, trying to will his team into national rankings that they couldn't live up to because I don't think they were quite as good as a lot of people thought. Was he trying to live up to Heisman billing? Was he just trying too hard to make things happen?
I think he was trying too hard. I think when you look at Sam, he kind of came out of nowhere from the year before. We're like, wow, this is Sam Darnold. He was going to be the projected #1 pick. And I had a chance to sit down with him and interview him going into last season. And you could just tell it felt a little like, I don't want all the attention. I just want to be great. I want to help my team. He is a very unselfish player. I thought the hype and the expectation got to him in a sense where I just thought he tried too hard. Right. And I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. I'm not one to judge, but I think the offensive line had issues all season long. He lost Juju Smith-Schuster, who ended up being a great pro this past year for Pittsburgh. So I thought he'd try to do too much. But for me, you talk about the picks, and we hear this a lot. Deshaun Watson threw a lot of picks in college. Everyone was saying, oh, he threw too many picks. Well, look what he did last year in those 5 or 6 games. He was outstanding. Jameis Winston threw a lot of picks in college, and he's still developing, but I think he's a pretty good pro quarterback. So I'm not – the interceptions to me aren't a worry. I think the ball security in the pocket, that's something when I played in Houston under Gary Kubiak, we had coaches, we practiced ball security every single day. Swipe in the belly, we used to call it. Swipe the belly with the ball. So those are things you can just work on and you can get better at. I mean, those are things that aren't as alarming to me. When I look at Sam and why I rave about him, one, he is a great kid. I think he's a leader. I think he's a quiet leader. He's hungry. He's competitive. But he just has the makeup. You know, he has the size, the arm, the mobility, the toughness. He's durable. And he's a guy that's not going to come with any baggage. He's going to walk into a facility. He's going to impress you with his personality. He's a shyer kid. He's quiet, but he's a fierce competitor. And I've been around him and I've seen it. So I think he's the safest one of these guys. And I think he has one of the highest ceilings of these guys as well.
I believe Darnold should be the #1 pick, Skip. But all these guys have major issues. Darnold with the turnovers. Allen, what about the competition? What about his accuracy? What about his performance on the field? Look at Mayfield, maturity issues, off the field issues. He's still 6 foot tall. And then Rosen seems to be a guy that thinks a lot of Josh Rosen.
He does.
And he seems to have a very fragile body. So everybody has a major flaw. The guy that we talk about doesn't have a whole lot of these flaws is Lamar Jackson. And he goes like, oh, man, he can't be no quarterback. I mean, I know he won the Heisman, but he threw for, 3,500 yards and 30. But he also ran the ball. So it's always, when it comes to him, it's always but. But we try to find a way. But
I think there's late momentum building on.
I agree with that.
And I would say Lamar Jackson, and I love Lamar Jackson. I love watching him play, and he's intriguing. And I think that's why you see the Patriots, some of these teams, really, really interested, and probably some teams that aren't even talking about it really like him. He's a dynamic athlete. I think he has to get bigger. Again, I was able to sit down with him last year. He's a taller guy, 6'2", 6'3". has the build to get bigger, but he improved passing every single year. He really worked on it. He played under Bobby Petrino, who's running NFL-style pass concepts, so he was able to.
And he's tough on his quarterback.
And he is. He's tough on his quarterbacks. And Lamar Jackson, and I love him in this whole process because he is like, listen, I am not a receiver. I'm a quarterback, and this is what I'm going to do. And maybe 5 years from now, maybe it doesn't work out, but he's a very interesting prospect that's gaining late momentum, but no one is really talking about him. I really like him.
You see Mary Kay Cabot's reporting that the number one
Cleveland.com.
Cleveland.com that basically is like Allen and Baker Mayfield.
The Browns are deciding between Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen. So Darnold's not, according to her report,
Exactly.
in the discussion now.
This is that would be dangerous to me. Cleveland has to get this right. And again, there's no guarantees. I mean, we understand this. There's no guarantee. You have to fall in love with a guy, you pick him, and you hope he's your guy for the next 10 years. I think Josh Allen, to me, is a project a lot like Lamar Jackson. I look at the accuracy issues, like you said, Shannon, the competition. I understand that. But if you're a number one pick, look at Carson Wentz a couple years ago, right? He was a baller. He dominated at North Dakota State and the competition. You could tell it really jumped out on film with Josh Allen. It's just the big wow arm. It's like, wow, that's impressive. But it just doesn't jump out at me.
As you know, I'm an Oklahoma fan, but I watched every snap Baker Mayfield played for the Sooners, and he played at a high level for a long time. Statistically, just in pure performance, he performed above these other four quarterbacks in pure numbers.
Absolutely.
He is a careful risk taker because he doesn't. It looks like he's risking plays, but he doesn't throw picks. He's 41 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions last year, and led college football in QBR, total QBR, 2 straight years. That's you can't sniff at that, but you can the height and you can the baggage.
Right.
I got it. But I get why Hugh Jackson, I believe if Hugh has the call in Cleveland, he's just saying, I can't teach and coach what Baker Mayfield has inside him because he's as competitive as your guy.
And I'm with you. I'm a big fan, covered in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
He is, we used to say decision-making, timing, and accuracy were the 3 most important things. He's got all of those better probably than all the other quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He is small. Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, that's the comparison. I've stood up to him, and he's big. He's built. He's stout. What is 6'1"? I mean, he's 6'1" in cleats. I mean, listen, it's not the worst thing. He plays with that competitive fire. He's a system guy. He's going to have to go in if it's Cleveland or New York. We talk about the RPOs and the way the systems are changing in the NFL, where they have to adapt to these college quarterbacks. And I would just look at the Rams, perfect example. Baker Mayfield, kind of like a Jared Goff. Jared Goff comes into Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher wasn't changing for anybody.
No.
We thought Jared Goff was a bust after 1 year. McVay comes in and is like, listen, I'm going to make you the best quarterback, and I'm going to do what you do well, and I'm going to build your skill set, and I have talented guys around you. And look at Jared Goff. I mean, it's Baker Mayfield has to go to a coach like that that's willing to implement that type of system to fit Baker Mayfield. But the maturity issue is definitely a concern. I think he loves football. I've spoken to Lincoln Riley about it. Lincoln Riley said he's a football junkie.
Yep.
He's a great teammate. Will he be a distraction? I don't know. We'll see. But I think
Wouldn't you agree that OU Lincoln Riley offense was fairly complex?
Yeah, those, and it's complex, and the RPOs and what Baker Mayfield is doing, he's reading the whole field, and his timing, his arm, he's got an above average arm, he's got a very good arm, and the fact that he's so small, but you talk about these smaller quarterbacks, it's arm angles, it's finding the lanes, it's moving a little bit in the pocket to make sure you can throw through those guys. He's very good at that, and the thing is too, Ohio State game, Georgia game in the Rose Bowl, he was awesome against elite talent, because they talk about Big 12 defenses and guys are wide open. And I get that, but he balled, like you said, on the biggest stage. He was at his best.
Well,
it'll be interesting.
If Cleveland doesn't take Sam Darnold, what will be really interesting is who does take Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
What if we have a situation like in '99, Tim Couch, Donovan McNabb, Achilles Smith, Cade McCown, and Dante Culpepper? Out of those 5, we got 1.5 quarterbacks. Donovan McNabb and Culpepper could have been a little better had he not suffered that injury. But the other 3 were whitewashes. So
I was covering the Bears then, and I was campaigning against Cade McNown. I just didn't like him. Did you cross his?
When I was growing up, I was a UCLA fan because of Cade McNabb.
Oh, wow.
So,
But he was the classic college quarterback.
He was great. Lefty. They had a great team. Him, J.J. Stokes, all those guys. Yeah.
so it's gonna be very, very. They better hope this is '83 draft as opposed to the '99 draft. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would be almost a miracle if all of them turned out to be
There's what is there like?
franchise quarterbacks.
There's less than 10 elite quarterbacks in every year. I mean, it's hard to find one. So it could be 1 out of 5. It might not be any of them.
The Browns just, you know.
Well, the Browns better hope they get that one.
I was gonna say
the Browns better get the one. Whoever it is, the Browns.
Oh,
better
can
get
you
it.
imagine that long list keeps going?
Yeah. Yes, I think everyone's imagining that. Thanks for joining us. Should Tom Brady finally congratulate Nick Foles for winning the Super Bowl? We'll discuss that with D'Angelo Hall next.